Um, Good morning, everybody. We are very excited to see you today. My name is Konrad Rembacz. I'm part of Unilever, Process and Technology Manager. My colleague who stands right beside me is Maciej Jędrzejczyk. He's part of IBM blockchain team for CE region. And today we would like to briefly introduce to you the topic of blockchain. First, we'll start, of course, with short introduction. I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with blockchain. If you just can raise your hand in the beginning, who heard in the past about blockchain? Who knows what it exactly is? Okay, it looks good. Then, of course, after introducing the topic, we will go to some examples. One example that we tried at Unilever, but as well we'll give you some ideas for implementation and what kind of sectors you can cover. So let's start, Maciej.
Okay. I have mine. It's a very nice audience. We're going to have a very nice discussion, I hope, by the end of our presentation. But before we can do it, I'm going to make an attempt to show you what exactly blockchain is so that we are at the same level of understanding of its importance and applicability in business. And afterwards, we will be able to discuss potential use cases. But this very basic level of understanding is very important. In order to be able to understand the benefits of blockchain, we have to go back to basics and redefine those basic elements that are necessary in a typical business network, starting from participants. A business network is a network of exchange of goods, of services that are bringing some extra value. Participants are two entities, individuals, businesses, organizations that are willingly participate in an exchange. And what they're exchanging is basically a subject of a transaction process. Transaction as a change of state. So I have something, Konrad has something, we decided to transact it together, we made an exchange, and transaction is a state that is describing what exactly has happened during this process. And the thing that we are exchanging are assets. It can have a monetary nature, like currency, like financial products, but it can also be any other kind of asset which, subject to exchange, can bring some extra value. And in order to bring some conditionality to this transaction process, we're bringing contracts. Contracts allow us to define on what conditions we will decide whether or not a transaction is going to be finalized. And once a transaction is successful, we usually put the results of this transaction into a ledger. All of us have some kind of a ledger or are using a ledger on a daily basis. But take a look at this image. Right now, we have two parties exchanging or interacting with each other, trying to extract some extra value from a transaction. But what is happening is that they're saving the state in two separate ledgers. Why are they doing so? It's because of a fundamental lack of trust. We don't trust each other, but we want to do business together. And how can we overcome this lack of trust? At this stage, in order to be able to do what we are doing right now, we're looking for a trusted third party, an authority that is going to be an intermediate between me and Konrad, and who is going to help us in all those, let's say, traditional bureaucratic processes like identification, like KYC, AML, putting, let's say, the contractual part together, et cetera, et cetera. So what is blockchain trying to do? Yeah, it is visible. Good. So blockchain is a reflection of this transaction. So what we can see here is a transaction that has taken place, which is saved in a block. A block is an information about something that has happened. Here, an exchange of value between two parties. A block is saving not only the change, so what has happened, but it also relates to the previous change, which is saved in a previous block, and so on, and so on. Which means that through some elements of cryptography, an attempt to make any change whatsoever in one block within blockchain is going to be easily verifiable because the state of all other blocks is going to change as well. So it's an easily auditable ledger that is going to assure us that whenever someone is trying to tamper with content of a transaction, with a value of transaction, with parties belonging to transaction ownership, contractual conditions, etc., they will be easily audited, identified, and basically blocked from doing so. And the process that is allowing blockchain to control the decision-making process is the so-called consensus that is above, which is governing the way those blocks are being put together. So this is basically what blockchain is. It's a tamper-proof, consensus-based, distributed ledger that is comparable to a ledger that we are using on a daily basis, but which is common to every single participant in a network. We already have blockchains available, Bitcoin, Ethereum, those which are the most, let's say, popular ones. They're public ledgers, and we can transact with each other in this ledger. But the thing is, those networks are not enterprise ready. So one of the basic reasons why an enterprise-grade blockchain is necessary for business purposes is because of some fallacies or problems related to an existence of or usage of networks like Bitcoin and Ethereum for enterprise use. The first one is governance. Since it's a public ledger, driven by the community, it's the community that decides. And the community is an arbitrary in a decision-making process, which is nice, but it's also a huge problem because if you rely on a community in your core business, then you're just inviting yourself into a huge problem. Anonymity is a second no-go for enterprise-grade blockchain solution because for public ledgers, all transactions are anonymous, which in some industries which are regulated, such as banking and insurance, is absolutely unacceptable. The third aspect is transaction capacity at cost. So just to give you an example, Bitcoin network transacts at 7 transactions per second. Compare it with Visa or MasterCard. Absolutely unacceptable. And the cost. Anyone has Bitcoins? Try to trade it? No? Yes? Okay. In order to send Bitcoins from one person to another, you have to pay around $2.5 right now. 10 zloty. In order to send a Bitcoin, which is a hell of a cost if you want to save more digital assets into a shared ledger. And last but not least, the buggy code available in the public. So smart contracts that define this contractual part are very nice because they give us a conditionality aspect which guarantee finality of transactions in a completely distributed peer-to-peer infrastructure. But at the same time, they're just an invitation for hackers to use them. And it already happened. One of the most popular hacks took place last year, and a hacker stole basically 160 million value of digital assets available on an Ethereum network. So it's just an invitation for hackers to come in. So what would be a response to this? Basically, an enterprise-ready blockchain that already exists in different variations, but which has certain characteristics which are differentiating it from public networks such as Bitcoin or Ethereum. The first one is a shared ledger. Obviously, we want to have the same point of view on what is happening, on the state of transactions, on the worldview, so what is true and what is not. But at the same time, we would like to have it privatized. We don't want everyone to see the content of it. Secondly, smart contracts are giving us this conditionality in a peer-to-peer network, which is a huge benefit. But, sorry, is this better? Okay. But they should be run in a private network in order to avoid exploitation by hackers. Privacy and permission is very important because in many industries, we or some companies are not going to accept that they're transacting together and that the content or even the event of a transaction can be visible and auditable to the other. So an aspect of privacy that is encoding those transactions so that the other participants in the same network cannot even see that this transaction has taken place, between whom this transaction has taken place, is very important, especially in private markets, such as retail, such as supply chain, such as transport. And permission. So basically, we're in a flat environment, peer-to-peer network, transacting with each other, but we need to have a possibility to refuse an invitation or to have an onboarding of a new participant on a acceptance of specific conditions. So this is how or what an enterprise-grade blockchain technology ready for business network would look like. And as I already said, it already exists. Would you like to switch to use cases?
Some use cases that you might think of. So you might think of every process which has different parties that need some validation that can be used actually as that we can implement a blockchain in. Some examples from financial sectors. Of course, the first idea is mortgages or reverse mortgage as well. So you have few parties that need to be sure that you have you give money to the person that is verified. Yeah, so you can implement a blockchain saying starting from raising a request for a mortgage. Then there needs to be done some verification by the internal bank's teams. Yeah, and all this transaction can be stored in blockchain. Yeah. From public sector.
Yeah, I mean, public sector is an underestimated but a very interesting set of use cases, and I can confirm that currently the Polish government is interested in using blockchain for holding a decentralized autonomous digital identity. Why? Simply because we're living in a very troubled world and unexpected things can happen, hackers can happen, distributed denial of service can happen, and Estonia is an example of a country that experienced such things. And what we're thinking here, I'm just giving you an example, is to have a digital identity that you can use to declare yourself as yourself without a need to rely on central databases. So think about benefits of having a completely decentralized identity that you can use in order to basically show your identity and use it on your daily basis and profile all events that have taken place related to your identity and have a full visibility and auditability around it.
Yeah. If you think about supply chain as an example, so sometimes you need to be sure about the provenance, about the origin of the product that you are selling, you are buying from somebody. So how to do that? We can use blockchain for it. We can store each transaction from firstly producing raw materials until selling to the final customer, and we can store the whole route in blockchain. So it can be verified. Each good has got its unique identification in this process. Yeah, and we can be sure while selling to the final customer that the product is yeah, the composed of the goods that you really want to. One example may be from diamonds. Blockchain is also used in diamond in industry. From the beginning, when you mine a diamond, you don't want it to be from theft or illegally mined. Yeah. So when the diamonds are being mined, they are entered, they are photographed, they get the identification, and they are entered into the blockchain. So within the process, wherever you sell it, it's all connected and it's all sold through the blockchain. What benefit does it have? In this example, when you have actually a certificate of origin of the diamond, you can sell it for a higher price. So it's not only doing for the sake of proving, but it also increases the value of the good.
And also, there are other examples in insurance, in manufacturing, in aerospace, in asset management, in any kind of industry where you have complex processes where a level of dependence of different entities that are arbitrarily giving or not giving permission to continue the process is just a use case for blockchain. Whenever there is a paperwork involved, whenever there is a cross-border, cross-industry, cross-jurisdiction relationship between businesses, which is of a bureaucratic nature and where bureaucracy can be overcome by having a single process codified in a smart contract in a completely distributed peer-to-peer network when there is no need to rely on a trusted third party. And there is a nice use case from your company. Could you say something more about it?
Yeah, of course. So hope everybody sees the slide. If not, please come closer. What we tried to do in Unilever is we tried to prove the origin of the palm oil. As you know, or maybe not, there's a huge exploitation that is done in the palm oil farms. So to make sure that our company is buying only from sustainable farms, we proposed a blockchain to verify if this specific oil is being sourced sustainably. Yeah? So as you can see here, there are few parties that are part of this process. So starting from the plantation or farmer, going through then the goods are going to the mill somewhere in Asia. From mill, it's going to the refiner. Refiner can be either in Asia or we can bring the crude oil into Europe and refine it here. Then it goes to our factories. Our factories produce margarine, as an example, like Rama. You then sell it. You then send it to the warehouse. From warehouse, it goes to the retailer, like Tesco, and then you buy it. This is the whole big process. So we proposed a blockchain, which firstly was supposed to start from mills through the refiner to Unilever. So this would prove that our products are sourced sustainably. In the end, we didn't implement this. I will also tell you why. There are a few things. Yeah. So first is that we have lots of suppliers. Yeah? So change management connected to implementing blockchain and assuring that all of the parties, all of the hundreds of suppliers are entering the data into the blockchain is a huge task. The previous tracking system was implemented like in almost 2 years. So probably would have same issue here. So always take into account that new parties, of course, when you implement any blockchain, you need to think about this think about this aspect. The second is governance and ownership. So of course there's need to be, although we share the databases, we share the transactions between different parties, you need to make sure that there's one company that may be leading one who is designing and can influence others in the way that system is being designed. So this is as well quite important thing. Yeah. So as I said, there are several reasons why we didn't implement this in the end, but yeah, it's worth to say that technology is ready. It's ready to use in the market. IBM has implemented already lots of examples. So some of them that you already heard is also with their help. Yeah, and
yeah, basically blockchain is ready for business. IBM managed to close around 140 projects last year only. The community around the technology is vibrant. There are numerous organizations, consortia that are actively working on different solutions. We have examples of production blockchain networks which are reflecting basically on business or on production business use cases that are being implemented in a variety of industries. So to conclude, we would like to send you a message that there is a technology which fits for a purpose, and the most important thing is to identify a valid use case and to have enough acceptance and sponsorship on an executive level to basically determine whether or not a business transformation on the basis of this new technology could take place. Because currently, if an acceptance or validation takes place right now, it gives a tremendous business and competitive advantage in comparison to the competitors. So I'm truly inviting you to have a discussion here or outside this room about potential use cases, about what you're thinking about the technology or the business relationship between technology and your business, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
We have still 5 minutes, about 5 minutes for your questions. So anybody? Yes?
What are you seeing in the area of finance and accounting in terms of can this technology replace or augment purchase ledgers, sales ledgers?
Would you like that I respond to it? Yeah. So we already have implementations of blockchain in finance, but finance is a very vast topic. So it really depends what exact business process you're talking about. With regards to accounting, I suppose the best way would be to carve a specific business process that previously was either bureaucratic or was paper trailed or was requiring arbitration from third parties, and try to transform it into a peer-to-peer relationship codified within a smart contract. And that would be a good starting point. Start small. And we have examples of banks or insurance companies that are already doing so. Just to give you an example from Holland, there was a pilot between the city of Groningen and insurance as well as the police for bikes that have been stolen for any reason. And the blockchain was used there in order to have a unique and shared point of view on the state of the bike, where it is, on the basis of GPS coordinates sent from an IoT device attached to it, and also what is the status of locker. So for an insurance company, it was a key information, what was happening to the locker at the moment when the bike was stolen. If the locker was closed, then the insurance company could have avoided the whole paperwork and basically transfer the insurance money back to the owner. But if the locker was open, then an automation of a process of blocking this insurance money from being given back to the owner could take place, and the same for the police.
Just follow up. What I'm talking about, every single company has a purchase to pay and an order to cash process, pretty much. Are there any solutions? Are there any solutions that you see that will be on the market that will be easy, off the shelf, and cost-effective to apply for any business that has, you know, purchase ledger and a sales ledger and is looking to potentially replace them with something like a distributed blockchain ledger? Or is that just many years off?
Blockchain is not a product. Blockchain is a part of a larger business transformation. So you're definitely not going to have an out-of-the-box experience right now.
But you will at some point. It will be productized. You will have apps that will have blockchain technology in them.
But
how
not
far
today
away?
Yet.
We're what, 3, 4, 5 years or?
It really depends on whether there is enough opportunity in there for a startup or a matured company to design a packaged solution. So I suppose it's a question of the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, for now we are pioneers here. Yeah, so everything that we are able to, any use case that we are able to find can give the benefit. There are vast benefits, as we mentioned, either removing some paperwork, automating, using smart contracts, as well increasing value of the goods. Yeah, so these are the opportunities that we have. The question is if we find the right business case to support in our companies of using this blockchain. Yeah, in this case, this is the biggest thing. But yeah, we are happy. We are running out of time, but we are very happy to discuss with you. Yeah.
Maybe one more question. What is the potential for blockchain to disrupt the market, and what are the most likely, in your opinion, sectors or industries that can be disrupted in the next years by blockchain?
Would you like to respond? All of them? FSS, so financial services industry, supply chain. Supply chain, definitely.
Yeah, everything that has a lot of paperwork, a lot of different actors in the game, that is a potential disruption industry.
Combined with analytics and Internet of Things, of course.
So why do you say start from small things if this is headed to disruption?
From my personal practical experience during projects in which I participated, scaling the expectations down is a reasonable thing to do because there's a huge hype around blockchain. I have seen some unreasonable expectations around the technology. And therefore, it is a right thing to do to start small and scale it over time.
And also not all projects will be successful. Yeah? So it's like creating your own business. You have to fail many times, so it's better to fail small in the beginning.
Okay, I think we're done. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.